Caroline, welcome back to Among the Lilies.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show again.
Yes, good to be here in Austria.
Yeah, this is crazy.
I know. Our last one was in the girls' bedroom in Steubenville.
Yep.
So,
We're neighbors. We live across the street, for those of you that don't know.
Yep.
Well, and now we live 2 doors over. We're neighbors both in Steubenville and in Austria.
Yes. Yeah.
Just such a gift.
It is.
It's so fun to be back together and to have all the kids back together.
I know. Yeah, they're such a little pack, like just roaming the hills and playing. It's been so good.
It's so good.
Yes.
It's so good. I love, like, even, I don't know, just the little bits, like when you guys came to Mass today, it was like, oh, they're back. Or like, Oren came over earlier when you were out.
I know.
And it was so fun to have him. And
Yeah. It's just community. When you live close by, walking distance, it's just, there's like a fluidity that makes life so livable because you don't have to plan a play date and like drive across town. But
no, it's lovely.
Yeah, it's so good.
So how have you been since we chatted last?
Well, so much has happened. Our last podcast was a week after Oren was born. So my youngest was just a week old and I was like postpartum and exhausted, and we were talking about health and all of these things. And so when you asked me to do round 2, I just thought about everything that had happened in the interim and how much better we are.
Yeah. We're both in good places right now, which is great and unusual.
I know.
Normally we're taking turns, but
exactly.
It's good. It's neat to get to know you in a healthy environment where we're both like going for hikes and walks.
I know. I would tell you in my former life, I loved to like hang out and be active and do things, but you often saw me like crawling off the couch.
Me too.
And we would joke that like we would switch off days. So we would take each other's kids places and just take turns being in bed and not functional. And it really, it's really hard to get a cadence of life or even enter into friendships when there's that unpredictability on the table all the time. So it's been so good to have this steady trajectory upward and be able to be out more and just do stuff with you guys. And so it's been great. So when I was thinking about this podcast with everything that's happened in between, I just thought like, what would I have said to myself back at that stage when everything was like so unpredictable and uncertain? And I just like, it's so wonderful to know that there is hope.
Yes.
Like not just for the next life, but for this life too. When you've just struggled with chronic illness for so long, it can seem like this is just the way life is going to be.
It seems like your whole world.
Exactly. And you just are going to have to live with this sort of chaotic unpredictability forever. And if that's not like met with this real possibility of hope, it can become, it can really overtake life, both for you and your family. And there can be a real cloud that descends without that hope. So that was like the biggest thing that just came to mind was there is a light at the end of the tunnel. That can be before you if you're in the depth of, just that suffering of not being able to serve your family, serve your friends. So, I don't know, is it the same for you?
Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, I think we both tend to be more optimistic and the glass is half full type people. Yeah. And it was hard. So I can only imagine if we were someone that already struggled with anxiety or glass half empty or like pain, like it's hard. It's really hard. And I think if we were, I could see it being that much harder if you were someone that already struggled with anxiety or depression. At least for me, like I often go to everything's going to be okay.
Yes.
But it's still, on bad days, it was really hard and questioning and even having doctors saying like, this is your new normal.
Exactly.
Like, here's your handicap pass. You just need to get used to the fact that you can't walk. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like that can't be my life. That's not who I am.
Yeah, exactly. And then not knowing yeah, there's a funny interplay between like trust and surrender, especially when you're encountering doctors and people telling you this. And also then wanting to like step up and advocate for yourself and fight for yourself and be like, well, this is not going to be my new normal. I'll find a way. And not ever letting that get to like a prideful level where you're not surrendering to what God gives, because he does allow this cross. And there's a lot of grace to be found in receiving it moment by moment.
Yes.
But
and offering it up.
Exactly.
But not just accepting it. Like still trying the next, okay, I'll try this doctor, or I'll try this supplement, or I'll try this weird, crazy diet, or...
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so, I mean, I know you know this, but I should just probably say it. So both of our health tanked when we moved to Steubenville, like in a huge way. And I had a history of chronic illness on and off. I had struggled with Lyme disease. I had also had like mold issues and a lot of the like naturopathic complex like that you see when you go to a functional med doctor, and a lot of them will specialize in Lyme or mold or parasites or what's the other one that like thyroid issues, like hormonal stuff. So just went through years where I was diagnosed with one after the other, all four of those, adrenal fatigue, everything. And I would go in waves where I would begin to feel better, be back to normal, sometimes for months at a time. And then I would have what seemed like a flare where I'd have a couple weeks of just feeling like I had the flu, like my skin would burn. I would just get weird rashes, headaches, dizzy, not able to function. And it would just go in that wave-like pattern for a long time. But then when I moved to Steubenville, it just like went totally downhill. And I was diagnosed with another really rare autoimmune disorder, in addition to POTS and EDS, which we both have. And it just became like totally debilitating. So we were on the couch all the time.
You didn't think you'd ever miss the flare-up days, but you do.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, yes. no, actually the flare-ups weren't as bad.
Exactly.
Like, the flare-ups were really bad, but this is way worse, that it was more of a constant, Yeah. So that was about 3 years ago?
Yeah. So 3 years ago to about a year ago, I would say, it was bad. And I mean, there were days I like literally could not climb stairs. My oldest daughter, I had leaned on her so heavily while Rob was at work. Like she would cook, clean. It was really rough on the whole family. And I really began, as things are just like unraveling, and then you see more doctors at the same time in desperation. I felt like that hemorrhaging woman in scripture, where it was like she spent all she had and saw many doctors and only grew worse and worse. And it's just like watching a spiral in front of you, and you just are powerless to stop it. So I just decided, lying in bed for like hours a day, I was getting so weighed down watching my husband carry this extra load, my kids be without a mom, my daughter stepping up to like run a home at 12, which she never should have had to shoulder. And so I just decided, you know what, like I literally can't do anything, and my brain fog is so bad, I don't even know if this will work, but I'm just going to read like medical journals. I'm going to like read stories of people who have recovered from autoimmune diseases. And I'm just going to see if there's anything I can do, I want to try it. Because I noticed the more I went through the medical system, like I saw many, many, many doctors in about 7 different subspecialties, but they would often, they'd listen to all my symptoms. I'd spend hours filling out these intake forms with like, gazillions of history and symptoms and stuff. And none of it ever seemed to bear fruit in a sustaining. Exactly.
Because you would get put on a prescription. And you're like, okay, great. You took care of the pain.
Right.
But now the brain fog is so much greater.
Exactly. I can barely drive.
Function, and I can't even think.
Yeah. And then you'd go to them and you'd wait for this appointment, and there would be this build up to it thinking like this is going to be the day that someone's going to figure it out, or like put the puzzle together, and you walk out of there just defeated and crushed, and like the meds like create their own problems, and I don't know. So it was just super disheartening. So I was like, look, lots of people I know have recovered or at least drastically improved from like every autoimmune condition under the sun. So I'm just going to read whatever I can. And I was like a sponge for 2 months. And I literally just lay in bed and just read and read and read. And so I began to like piece together this protocol, and I would just like trial and error different things to see if they helped or hurt, and was just tried to be patient with it. And the more I read and the more I learned, I realized that like we really do need to take our own health in our hands in this day and age. Like throughout the millennia of history, like people were naturally healthier just by virtue of the way they lived and the way life was organized. And yes, they were more susceptible to illnesses that we can now cure with antibiotics. So that was the variable that caused them to live shorter lives. No amoxicillin back then. But barring that, like we have like exponentially more cancers today, more autoimmune diseases today, diseases that never occurred before in history are rampant now. Like, why is that? And I began to think about it this way, like, when we parent our kids, we know that just like handing them over to mainstream culture, it's like not at all what we do. Like if we did that, our lives would not go well. They would not turn out well. We cannot just turn our kids over to public education and not bat an eye or think about what they're learning. Like we have to invest ourselves and like constantly engage with the overarching narrative and check it. Like, is this good? And from everything to like morality to like what kids are learning in school, like, you know, like just culture as a whole, we as Catholics are totally aware that we can't just like hand ourselves over and everything will turn out right. 300 years ago in Catholic Austria or like Christian America, well, 300 years ago, there was no Christian America. But you could do that much more easily. Like the way of life, it was just inbuilt to life. Like
the way we grew up, like my parents would always buy like in a new neighborhood because we moved a lot. And it was like all the families got along. You lived in a cul-de-sac. You all were looking out for each other's children. It was, you all wanted the good of all the kids and everyone. I mean, it was like there may be a bad guy and there was like a fear of it, but everyone kind of was on the same page, more or less, where now it's not the case. No,
that's so true. Not even 300 years ago, but 30 years ago, it was totally that way. Yeah, absolutely. And now we just have to be so aware all the time. And I found the same thing is totally true for our health. Like we cannot just turn ourselves over to like industrial farming and big pharma and just expect our health and our like, because we are body soul composites. So we're like both, we have this like angelic nature and this animal nature. And if the material side of us is not nourished well, that's going to affect the life of our soul. It affects our thoughts, it affects our ability to function, and eventually can cause chronic disease.
Right.
So if we don't look at like caring for our bodies in the same way that we would look at caring for our children's soul or caring for, you know, where we decide to move, what community we end up in, then we're going to be in a bad place. If we
and it's
just,
like a conversation you wouldn't have 100 years ago. 100 years ago, it's like, what are you talking about?
Food.
Like, I just went and I got the grain. I'm milling it. I'm baking it.
Exactly.
Like, what do you mean I need to be mindful? Like it's like
I know.
whatever's growing, I pick and I eat it.
Yep.
The kids go and collect the eggs and we cook with it. Like it's a conversation that didn't have to happen, and now it does.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, whoa. Like we need to be mindful of what we're putting in our mouths. We need to be mindful of where we're eating. We need to, all these horrible oils, like all the seed oils.
Yes. That was one of the most surprising things to me. I mean, I've been paleo for like, I don't know, 8 years, gluten-free for that long, grain-free for most of it, trying to work with my Lyme and mold and all these things. But I would like go to the store and get the big bag of Boom Chicka Pop at Costco, you know, and I'd be like, oh, this is great. It's paleo, you know, thinking like a little corn was okay once in a while, not knowing it's just coated in sunflower oil and all these things that were like actually really problematic. And so the more I delved into it, I just realized this is just not, sorry, I thought I heard something.
Yeah, it was someone coming
okay,
in. Just
okay.
ignore it. Just ignore it. It's fine. The beauty of doing podcasting in a live house.
Family life. Yeah, so I don't know. I've been going to naturopaths and functional med doctors for many years at this point, and I was shocked at how much I didn't know. So once I started putting these things into practice, things really started to trend upward. And praise God, like I feel like 90% better, sometimes even 95. Like I cannot believe what a difference they've made. And so I'm just happy to share what I've learned. And I know you're the same with carnivore, and things have like, been so helpfully impacted by that for you. So
and I feel like a part of it is to educate, just to because I do have a lot of listeners that also suffer from chronic conditions, and I think it's, I don't know, I think it's like, well, you don't understand, I'm like this, or and it's like, I get it. Like we even have some of the same diseases and we're different from each other. And certain things you can have that I can't, and vice versa.
Yes.
Like I'm living life on the wild side by putting a raspberry in my water. I won't
Really?
eat it. I'm just drinking the water with it in it. And I don't think people have to go as far. I think we're both the canary in the coal mine. Like we are more sensitive. We are more impacted by our environment around us. And because of that, I think that we also have a unique gift where it's like, oh, actually, all that pirate booty that you're eating is not good for you because it makes me feel like this now. People that can get away with it, like our husbands can get away with eating those things, but it's like when they're eating the way we're eating, or not even as strict, when they're just on like a whole food diet, they feel better. And they're like, wow, look, I don't have a gut, or I feel great, or I have more strength because I'm, you know, eating what we're cooking. Mainly. But I think it's good to be like, okay, here you go. Like you don't necessarily have to. I know a lot of people have asked me about doing more carnivore videos, and I'm like, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about what I'm doing, but I don't think I'm so gung-ho that everybody needs to be doing carnivore. I'm like, it's working for me. Like I do best when I just had meat and eggs and butter, and that's it. But I don't know that everyone else needs to do it. So I think it's good to share, because we have both done a lot of research. So I think it's great to share things that work really well. And things that have helped that other people can try. Because I think that there's a lot of other people out there that are in a desperate place like we found ourselves.
100%. And I know certain things that worked well for me for periods began to not be effective anymore, and actually were counterproductive. So one of those was keto for me. I was keto for like 2 years and literally would never let a drop of sugar, even in the form of honey or maple syrup or even fruit, like pass my lips. So I was really strict because it helped me initially. So I was super high fat. Like, I mean, I just ate fat all the time. And I felt good for about 3 or 4 months. You remember me, like I was always on like keto cups, plantain. But I found that like in a lot of the reading I was doing, one of the necessary mechanisms for systemic repair was having sufficient protein to basically not have your body begin to, they call it like catabolize itself. So like break down your own tissue in order to feed itself. And so in order to switch your body to what they call an anabolic state, which is a tissue like building state, or muscle building state, you just need to have sufficient protein. And I know even though I was eating tons of meat at the time, like I would eat constantly just eating like beef, chicken, sardines all the time, I still wasn't hitting my protein goals. And so one thing that made a difference for me was trying to make sure that I get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight every day. And it's like you think in your head like, oh, I just eat fat and meat, I'm sure I get enough protein. But when I actually put pen to paper and figured out how much protein I was eating, I was actually still only getting about half of what I should have gotten.
And see, I think I'm getting more than I need.
Okay.
I think I'm over that.
Okay. Yeah, you well might be with.
But I think I'm over it with fat too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But for me right now, I feel like that's what my body needs.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's been something where I'm like, I may be having, like there's times that I'm like, I think I'm eating too much, but I listen to my body.
Yeah,
so I have some days where it's not as much.
Be so responsive. Yeah, totally.
But more than not, I'm eating more than I think I ought to, but I think I also have a higher metabolism, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it is. I think it's listening to your body.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you switched and upped your protein.
Yeah, and I try to make sure Greek yogurt is a great way to get protein. I had been dairy intolerant for my entire life. But after going just total protein on meat-based sources for about 3 months, I experimented with adding in Greek yogurt, and I could tolerate it for the first time ever. Did not break out in hives when I would eat dairy. Still can't do milk, but I can do the yogurt.
So and do you care more about it being high protein or high fat or both?
That's the thing. So keto, I was all about the fat. But when I switched my orientation to high protein and just made sure that I was getting a certain amount of protein a day, I noticed like my gut began to repair itself. So I could begin, that was when I started to be able to add in foods. Okay. So like I couldn't do fruit for years. And I only started to add it back in after about 3 months of going high protein. Because it allows your gut lining to repair. And also like you notice like, I just felt stronger. Like I felt like my muscles worked again. And so that just had an upward spiral effect because I could like take a walk and get fresh air and do these things that I wasn't able to do before. Yeah. So protein was huge for me. Other things, I don't know, you just might go through the list or do you have?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I would say the 3 staples, I think of them like a pyramid. The first one is like sun and sleep on the bottom of the pyramid, then food, then supplements. So the bottom of the pyramid, which I skipped over going to protein first, I totally underestimated how important getting sunlight is and like setting your circadian rhythm. So your body knows when it's time to sleep and wake. And if it does, the sleep you get is so restorative and so healing that it's literally like a different thing than the sleep we had been getting, which was just a really light, survival, like non-reparative state of rest, which wasn't restful. One time, like Cameron called me from across the street and was like, "Do you have any gabapentin?" Which is like we used it for pain. We were both on it, but it would also help us sleep. And I know for a while, like it was too painful to sleep without it. And so finally getting to a state where I can fall asleep on my own and just stay asleep and wake up feeling like actually repaired. It is like, it sounds so stupid and so obvious, but it actually is like more valuable than any supplement. And I think it's definitely on par, if not even more important than diet, because if your sleep is messed up and your body literally cannot clear out waste and repair, you'll stay inflamed, like your gut will stay porous, you will, and it's not just about sleeping, because I don't think like taking just supplements to make you sleep, you don't get the same thing. Like it's not the same thing. Well, that's totally, it's exactly right, because that's what I was doing for a while.
We would take the gabapentin and it would make us tired and we'd get rid of the pain and we'd sleep. But I'd wake up so swollen and still in pain.
Exactly.
And I wasn't rested. Like I feel like for a while there, I'm like, I need a lot of sleep, but I'd be in bed for like 10 hours.
Exactly.
And I didn't wake up refreshed. Where now I feel like I'm getting up after only 8 hours of sleep. And I'm like, oh wait, I think I can function.
I know.
Which is a huge gift.
It's literally like a different thing, like waking up from a good reparative rest.
Yeah. So what do you need to do to set yourself up for success for that? I totally agree with you, but what are some key factors?
So this is what I was missing, because I'd read about sleep for years. It's so important, obviously, for many different reasons, but just thought like popping some melatonin or whatever I needed would like give me this, but it doesn't. I was so floored at how much research I read, like just consistently reading about circadian rhythm and the importance of sunlight, which is another thing. Like, big pharma tells us that like seed oils are good for us, or the vegan diet is healing, or, you know, it's okay for our kids to watch secular TV and they'll turn out to be moral people. And we know all of these things are not true. So when I started to like delve into it and realized like, actually, all of this like fear mongering about the sun is actually, it's just not nuanced at all. Like people are out there with like SPF 80 everything, never letting their kids or themselves get real sunlight. It's actually causing cancer. Like it's causing problems. They've directly correlated cancer risk to lack of sun exposure, and other things too, like cardiovascular risk, autoimmune diseases. They know that people are much more likely to get MS as you go up in degrees of 5 in latitude around the world. So the closer you are to the equator, the less at risk you are for MS, which is like one of the biggest autoimmune diseases, but it probably bears true for all autoimmune diseases. But anyway, the reason that people are developing melanoma, which 100 years ago was like not a thing, or like almost never a thing, is because our environment is saturated with things that oxidize our tissues. One of the biggest things is seed oils. So when I say seed oils, I mean anything that is not coconut, olive, avocado, or beef fat, butter, tallow. So any other oil like canola, rapeseed, sunflower, anything like that are
vegetable
collectively
oil, like
known. Yes.
Yeah. And I think some people think, well, this is better than, it's, no, they're all really bad.
Yeah.
You're right. Like vegetable oil is horrible and atrocious, but so are the other oils.
Exactly. When in doubt, use butter or olive oil. Or
save your bacon grease.
Exactly.
Like it's so easy.
Yes. And so much better. Like more delicious. That's what I mean. Yeah. Exactly. So these things are, they're changing our tissue composition. So it's called oxidizing the tissue, which makes it way more susceptible to DNA damage from sunlight. So if you put like oxidized tissue in sunlight, strange things will start to happen, namely cancers will develop or premature aging, all of these things. But if you nourish yourself from the inside out with healthy, good fats, you're much more able to receive nourishment from the sunlight. And we can intuitively feel this. Like if you step on the beach in the sun for 5 minutes, suddenly the world is like heaven again. You're like,
it's a much better place.
I am just all of
you
my
always sleep better when you go to the beach too.
Exactly.
Yeah, whenever I go to Florida, I'm like, I just sleep so much better.
You sleep so much better because of the sun, and you're grounding all the time in bare feet, which is another thing. But I know.
I'm not grounding that, on this.
Inside, but you're ready to go.
Floor.
But yeah, so anyway, it's just,
and then
if
would you
watch,
also say lighting as well?
Yeah, exactly.
So not being on screens prior to bed.
Yeah. So blue light totally disrupts your body's ability to sense what time of day it is. So you have photoreceptors in every skin cell that you have, and also the cells of your retina that absorb UV light at different angles or wavelengths. And this helps your body to literally tell what time it is to perform different functions. So you probably know when you sleep from the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., your body knows it's time to clear waste out from your brain. And if you're awake during that time, or you're not in a state of deep rest, it will not do this. That function just doesn't happen. And so it's our job to help our bodies understand what time it is. And one of the best ways to do this, and it's really simple, and actually as a Catholic, it's so beautiful to see how it corresponds with the wisdom of the church. But you rise at dawn and you get 15 minutes of what they call low angle sunshine, where your retina and any part of your body you can expose to the sun, you just do. So I'll open a window in one of the kids' rooms, which are on the back of the house, and get that sunshine. And even if it's an overcast day or a partly sunny day, I'll just look at the sun as it comes up. I'll do it again at midday, so when the sun angle changes and the light is at its strongest, and I'll do it again around the evening time. And just doing that repeated exposure for about 15 minutes at a time, you can pray while you do it. So it's like the hours of the church. It's so beautiful to see how the church knew, like, we're supposed to take time at these moments to rest and reset. And literally, like, when you think of the significance of the sun, like our orientation to him who is like all light and gives life, not in a weird new agey way at all, but like just the fact that like this need of our body for light, like, and he says like, I am the light of the world. And you realize that like literally every cell in your body responds to him as light of the world.
And when you live somewhere where you don't see the light, so like here we have like really gray overcast days like we have today, and then we'll just have this glorious day where the sun's out and everybody comes out, all the students, everyone's just like, and we're just soaking in the rays. Like it's our natural response.
Exactly.
And I'm the same. The first thing I want to do in the morning is I get outside in my bare feet, in the dirt, in the grass, and just, Lord, give me the grace. And I find it wakes me up and it sets me for success more than my cup of coffee.
Exactly.
I used to always be like, I just need coffee. And then I'd be like, why haven't I woken up yet? I just need, but I find that does, even when it's cold, I would get out and put my feet in the snow. Yeah. And even if I don't see the sun, I try to get where it would potentially be shining.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important, even if the sun isn't out, it's like there is light that still penetrates through the clouds and your body still gets the message, not as strongly, but it still does. And it's important. So it's, it was really funny. The kids showed me once this video that someone sent them. It's a time-lapse video, so it goes really fast, but it's just of a room and the window is cracked, and so the sunlight comes in at an angle, and the room is full of like 15 cats, and there's a sunbeam that as the day goes on, it moves slowly across the room, and the cats move with the sunbeam as the sun goes across the room. They're always,
yes, totally exactly. I'm talking to people, and I'm like, I still want to talk to you, but do you mind coming over
the sun? Yes. I know, it's like a sunflower that's just always turning. But you see that like literally every like light, or you've probably seen videos of plants doing it too. Like I just said, the sunflower, like everything is reaching for this light all the time and like thirsty for it and trying to find it. And we all want to be in the light. And then to see like, we're supposed, like suddenly for the first time in the history of humanity, we're told actually that light is bad for you. Get out of the light. Like that, it just doesn't make sense. And obviously we need to have nourished bodies to go and be able to properly receive the light. Right. But that just made me think about the parable of the sower who like the seed is sown into good soil. So we need to prepare our bodies in a way that can like properly receive the light and know if we're consuming crap all the time, it will actually do damage. But if we take care to eat well, then the sunlight is actually healing. It's not just vitamin D, although that's a big part. But anyway, it sets our body clock so that then we can sleep at the proper times. And I also try to really cut down on blue light after about 4 p.m. So I know a lot of people use blue light blockers, which are glasses that filter the blue light. We've also started doing this thing for Lent that the kids love, and I love it for lots of reasons, but it's called Dark Nights. And at sundown, we just turn off all electricity in the house. So like all artificial lighting, we don't use screens, and we just use candles. Yeah. And so I just invested in a few little candle holders. And it's been amazing to see the change
too,
that is wrought.
It also promotes family time.
It does. It
you like the most candles in here?
Yes. Yeah. So it's amazing. They're literally like moths to a flame. Like all of a sudden I saw them, there were a few candles lit on the table. They all gathered around. They were just staring at the light, and they were like doing cool things with the wax, and like, obviously they're old enough to not get hurt, and I would keep the baby away, but it was like an hour of them just staring at the light. And I was like, if the lights were on, nobody would be in here. Would just be doing their own thing. And so it does. It just, the flame, that light just like draws people together.
I think it's the same with like a fireplace. Yes. You know, like I'll light the fire and then everybody's sitting in here looking at the fire. And yeah.
Exactly. And it's like artificial lights don't do that at all. And it's funny to think about, just the mystery of that. Like when we try to take the light to ourselves and make it doesn't.
And then what's your thought on red light therapy then, like connected with that?
Love red light therapy. We both have the same red light at home. I don't have one here in Austria, but you can get like chicken lamps, the little red lights, they're just bulbs. So I want to get one because it is a great option at night if you do need to read or do other stuff and you don't want a candle.
I also find switching to like an Edison bulb. So most of my lights in my house are Edison bulbs.
So
and
good.
I find that is a step in the right direction.
It is,
Not the same, but
it's not that harsh blue, like just that over blue on the spectrum. It
so
just
like
messes
schools,
you up so much.
Like if you think of like schools with the fluorescent or hospitals.
Exactly.
You need that for surgery. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Why we would have it every day. Yeah.
I know. It's so true. Although that is one of my pet peeves of hospitals, obviously in like the surgery suite. But hospitals today are just, they're like set up as like anti-healing centers. Like you're under blue light all the time. You're woken up every 2 hours in the night.
What you're fed is not food.
You're fed corn syrup and soy protein.
Yeah.
You are.
I was fasting, or I was on like a fast, and they brought me like bouillon powder, whatever. Like,
gosh,
I was
like
this
straight up MSG.
Like, this would make me so sick. And Jello. I'm like, this is full of dye. And I was like,
gosh,
why would you want me to have this? I'm like, well, you're allowed it. You're on a liquid diet. I'm like, no. This is poison to my body. This will make me so sick. You have no idea.
You're like educating the nurses, converting them as you tell them about the perils of bouillon. It's so true. I
texted friends and I was like, who has bone broth? Someone give me real substance.
And I started reading stuff like that Florence Nightingale wrote at the turn of the century about her philosophy on healing. And she opened like, she was the backbone of like many healing centers, and was a firm believer in the power of sunlight. They called it heliotherapy back then. And also things like fresh air and movement and sleep. So she had this protocol, and it was like all the stuff we're doing. It's like, get in the sun, get outside, sleep deeply, don't wake the patient.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the opposite of what we do today. And
someone told me about this app that I downloaded. It's air quality.
Okay.
Because I would get these migraines and Steubenville, and I'm like, I don't know why.
Yes.
And then I downloaded the app, and I knew, like, I would feel it in my body. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't feel good. And then I look at the air quality outside, and it was like in the red zone. Like nobody should be breathing this air. I'm like, oh,
the canary in the coal mine. You can just warn everybody.
Yeah, I can feel
migraine.
it. I'm like, oh, my hands, my head.
Yeah.
Okay, so really good quality sleep. I totally agree.
So red light is great.
I think on days that you do, like when people go for hikes and when they go, and I'm so sorry for those of you that are like really in the midst of suffering from all of this right now. And that's why I think I like the beach, because it's like, I didn't have energy to go for a hike, but I could go sit at the beach.
Exactly.
So doing that, getting out, turning off electronic devices, not being on our computers and things right before. I think a good quality magnesium as
exactly.
well. Okay.
So that was what I was going to get to at the top of the pyramid when we talk about supplementation. But obviously, it's super synergistic with like sleep, because you need certain things to sleep well. So I would say, just as far as the light thing, like it honestly sounds trite, but once I started doing it, I'm amazed now at how much I crave it. Like I really crave
the sunlight.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Me too.
I crave the light, but also the darkness at the night and just the candles. And I find that I get so sleepy and ready for bed on my own. And I've grown to love that feeling and like really treasure the nighttime in a way I didn't before. So even if it sounds like extreme,
I love baths, and I always light candles when I take a bath at night. Like when I'm not feeling well, I'm like, that's all I need. I need a dark room. I need my salts and my candles lit. But I wonder if it's the light too, because I don't want the light on.
Exactly.
I even bought a night light for that bathroom because I'm like, kids, stop using the light. It's so bright.
It's so harsh.
So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I turn the light off and walk in. And sometimes kids are in there getting ready. They're like,
stop.
Mom, I'm brushing my teeth. But they've just gotten used to it. They're like, yep. Yeah. Or I'll like come down the stairs and Mom wants the lights off.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I know. I know. But it makes a difference. And it grows on them too.
Yeah.
So they grow to love it. But anyway, so I would say sun and sleep. And then nourishing diet, however that shakes out for you. I would say you could be carnivore. You could be like me right now. I'm pretty limited. I don't do grains, but I do lots of protein sources, limited dairy just with the yogurt. And it's just like really quality sourced food. So I'm very basic.
I feel like as far as the food goes, everyone should be doing real food. So that means no seed oils. I think most people do better not having grains or the highest quality of grain that you can get. Exactly. So if you make your own sourdough, I feel like that's kind of and certain people can handle it more than others.
Yeah.
But I do think like meat, fat. I'm not anti-veg. I'm not eating any right now, but I'm okay. Like I'm still feeding my kids vegetables and fruits. But I don't think like most of the processed stuff in the store we shouldn't be having.
Exactly.
Most
just
chips.
The aisles on the outside in the States, it's different here, but like anything in the center of the store is basically a waste of time. Just like produce, meat, and dairy is.
And everything that we put into our body, I think we need to be asking, like, is this going to make my body better or worse?
Exactly.
And I think I realize like we're more extremes because there are things that I will try that a normal person will be fine, and I'll break out head to toe in hives because of, my issues. And so I have to be so much more careful. And I do understand that, but I think we all should be mindful. And I love the season of Lent that we're in because you are more mindful. And even my kids are like, wow, I didn't realize how much sugar I was eating. I didn't realize how much. Yeah. And it's just like, we stopped having it, and it's like, okay, you're craving sugar. You can have a piece of fruit. Like there is an option for you.
And you see the way it's related, like, again, the wisdom of the church, like why the church prescribed fasting, like obviously because of what it does for us spiritually and the detachment. But it's also like when we take stock of what we're putting into our bodies, like you would never tell a mechanic that it doesn't matter what type of oil you put in the car. Yes. Obviously, there are like really a wide range of like recognized degrees of quality of oil based on where it comes from and how they purify it. So it's the same with food. Like there are foods that will then like put you in a state that will capacitate you to be more yourself and make the choices that will allow you to cultivate virtue. And so, like, it actually does matter.
In the States, North America especially, you do see it here as well, but not as much. But there's a lot of food that's not food.
Exactly.
We call it food, but it's not.
Yeah. And when you're a mom, you can see it in your kids when they go to a birthday party and eat something terrible and they come home and they're like not acting themselves at all. You can see that this like directly impacts their formation and life of virtue and their ultimate capacity to like respond to you and do good. Not that we should ever excuse them. At the same time.
A mom here was looking after Peter for me the other day, and she said, is there any allergies? And I was like, we try to avoid gluten and dye. And she's like, why would I give him dye? And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so funny. I'm like, well, like candies and things. And she's like, why would they put dye in that? I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. So in America, and she's like, what would I possibly give him? But in the States, Doritos,
everything,
cheese puffs, Sour Patch Kids, whatever.
Like even
marshmallows.
Yes. No, literally they
yogurt.
Put red dye in milk in the States. It's in some milk. Yeah, it's in milk, it's in medicine, it's in like Tylenol, it's in everything. I literally don't know why.
She's like, why would I give your kid dye? I'm like,
got some food dye up in the counter. That is
but it made me realize, like, oh yeah, we used to not have it the way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So sleep, all right.
Sleep, food,
supplements.
And then supplements.
Yes.
So I would say there were a couple, and I've experimented a lot with different supplements and protocols and things, but if I had like a basic stack that I would recommend, the cornerstone of that would be magnesium. So literally like everybody is magnesium deficient because of modern farming practices. They deplete the soil of their nutrients because they farm in ways that strip the natural remineralization cycle. So it's literally impossible to get magnesium for food. You would have to eat like 4,000 calories of almonds a day just to like make the bare minimum.
Because I think that was my issue. I was having way too many almonds.
Yeah, same. I know. It's like when all you can have is almond flour or butter, you just get way too into the almonds. But and funnily enough, a lot of the forms of magnesium that are readily available are like absolutely terrible for you, which is why a lot of people have like bowel issues, GI issues when they first trial magnesium, because a lot of the forms they're using are like magnesium oxide and magnesium citrate, which are basically like trash. They're not going to do much for you. And I mean, they might make you use the bathroom if you're constipated, but other than that,
I saved some of my not great magnesium for that because I'm like, I need to use the back magnesium just to get things moving along.
So you don't have to go down to the pharmacy and ask. Yes. We won't tell that story. Anyway, so there are like 8 different forms of magnesium, but I would absolutely recommend everyone trying magnesium glycinate before bed. During the daytime, magnesium chloride or magnesium taurate, which are both, they won't make you sleepy and they won't make you have GI issues or diarrhea. But they nourish you at a cellular level. So your cells have the powerhouses of energy in each of your cells is called the mitochondria, and they need magnesium to function. It covers, there's like 200 something functions that magnesium has in your body at the most basic structural level. And so it is incredibly healing. And so if you're nourishing your body with enough, the repair process begins gradually and slowly, but it makes all the difference when it's paired with a proper nutrition and proper circadian rhythm. So those three things in harmony are really the path out.
Do you know what form of magnesium is found in like mineral water?
So magnesium, like dissolved solids, it can vary. It's magnesium chloride sometimes, or magnesium sulfate.
Or like in the LMNT things that we like.
Yeah, so that's magnesium chloride, which is good. Okay, yeah. But it's just trace amounts. So it's very, very little. It's like it flavors it. You can pick up on the mineral taste, which is really delicious. But it wouldn't be like
with the potassium and the salt.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So in order to be magnesium megadosing, it's like very, very difficult to ever overdose on it because your body regulates its absorption. Is
magnesium one that we would just get rid of if we OD'd on anyhow?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a B vitamin that way. It's not stored in tissues like vitamin D or vitamin K. So it's you can safely take very large amounts. And you might feel some bowel upset if you take like extreme amounts, but I really, like, no one in my family's ever had those issues. So you want to try a gram. Okay, and I should just preface this, like, this is not medical advice. I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional at all.
Just in our experience, what has worked well.
In lab testing myself like a lab rat, this is what has helped me, but do not try this at home. I personally take a gram of elemental magnesium every night before bed. Magnesium glycinate, when you, like here in Austria, the form that I get, like a serving size gives me 300 milligrams of elemental magnesium. So I need to take like 3 times the recommended dose just to get to baseline. So it's a lot of magnesium, but it's really worth it.
And you
sleep
really
is
well when you take
glorious, and your body will begin the process of repair. So what I found in a lot of my research is like we're just treading water and we're trying to just like have a good day tomorrow. But your body has the mechanisms to heal and have that upward spiral trajectory, and even heal intolerances that I've had. Like I was lactose intolerant from the time I was a baby, could never have yogurt, could never have milk. But this, like in living in a state where your body's actually repairing and healing, hopefully you won't have to live in such a limited way forever. So that's the goal, and it will take time, but just be patient. So I would say magnesium, and then
I gave Kiara some last night. I've been giving it to the kids most nights, but my daughter's in a cast up to her knee right now. And I got ibuprofen earlier from someone. I wanted to give it to her and I couldn't find it. And she couldn't sleep. And I'm like, I'm just going to up her magnesium. So I gave her even more.
Yeah.
And, but I think she thought it was the pain pills.
Oh,
I didn't. I just said, take these. But I was looking for the pain pills. And by the time, I still didn't find them. They're somewhere in this house. But by the time I was like, I'm just going to double check on her, she was out. And I think it was just enough to like, put her to sleep.
Yes.
And then she was fine this morning, and I asked how her pain was. She was fine. So I think there's also the like, okay, just let your body turn off, rest, and heal.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that was even better than what the ibuprofen would have done.
Yes, exactly. If you can just get into a sleep state, like the pain goes away and you heal, whereas ibuprofen will cause all these other issues, you know? Yeah. So my oldest daughter, so I have 2 forms of magnesium. I have glycinate in the capsules, but then I also have a big tub of chloride, which is just like a powder, and it tastes like strong salt. And so she'll take 2 scoops of chloride before bed, and it's very intense, but you just wash it down quickly. So it's something the other kids don't like because it tastes so strong. But my oldest daughter loves it now because she's like, within 2 minutes, I feel like I've had a massage. Like she just feels herself unwind. And so she really has started to look forward to it.
Is that what's in the like calm supplements as well?
So the natural calm, like dissolvable raspberry lemon stuff, like I used to like it just because like it was also relaxing, but it's magnesium citrate. And so if you have too much, you will have like bowel issues.
Okay.
And you also can't take as much without bowel issues, so you don't get the same like intensity.
Is just magnesium.
Magnesium chloride, not citrate. Yeah.
Magnesium chloride.
And that's also one you can take in the day without getting sleepy, whereas magnesium glycinate, you will start to feel very tired. So it's relaxing, but it's just not like a sedative.
Do you do minerals daily too, or no? Like
in
other
what way?
Like other trace minerals?
Oh, yeah. So I love electrolytes. I know you do too. So I'm constantly just drinking, and those have a blend of, potassium, magnesium, salt. I think that's it. I don't know. Okay. But, okay.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Time. What other supplements?
Yeah. Another one that's actually safe and really, really good to take it's called taurine. And it is amazing for systemic repair and mitochondrial health. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is just what's helped me. So I'll take taurine at bedtime, and it's also very relaxing and allows your body to enter that repair state. It's great for gut health as well. It's an amino acid, so when you take collagen, there will be taurine in collagen, but it's in an isolated form. It's really, really helpful. So I do taurine. Black seed oil is incredibly anti-inflammatory and good for long-term repair, also super, super safe. And so I would say, magnesium, taurine, black seed oil. And then depending on symptoms, there are a whole host of other things that you could then add in and experiment with. So I'm not sure what to say.
It's a good intro. Here's some things we recommend. We'll come up with more later, but
exactly. So that I would just say to have hope and know that like healing really is possible, and just relate to yourself like a little child you love. Like, when they're in pain and when they need to be cared for, you are their advocate, and you are there not to like feed their despair, or like you are there to interface with the doctor, to care for them, and treat yourself the same way. Like be your own advocate.
And don't be afraid to turn to something else.
Yes.
And I feel like we both hit that with our specialists, where we're like, we need something else. And it was more functional medicine, chiropractic care, massage therapy. Like it's okay to try, and it's okay to be like, I tried this one chiropractor, it didn't work, but this guy's great. Like, figure out,
and keep forge your own way. Yourself. Exactly. And trust your body. Like, I knew when I was with someone that wasn't helpful for me, like there's this deep intuition. You just, trust yourself, listen to your body with food, with supplements, with different things. And then, and also too, just when you have seemingly complex issues, like I just remember feeling in that tunnel with like Lyme and mold and all of these problems, and it just seems so difficult to tackle. Like, you just start with baby steps, just like with a kid learning, how to live, how to get off. You will find a way through. And I would just say, have hope.
Amen. So, Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Luke. But
Yay.
That's it. Good. Cheers.
That's perfect. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.